Coming up on this week's episode of the Ask Women podcast, we have Dr. Laura Berman. You have heard of her before. I know you have, because she is famous, and she's famous for a reason, because she knows what the heck she's talking about. And she is talking to us today about chemistry. We've talked about this before, but she's providing us with a scientific look at chemistry, why it's created, how it's created, and how you yourself can make a woman feel chemistry in your first encounter or on your first date or in your long-term relationship. So keep listening.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Ask Women podcast. We're so glad you're here. Today, of course, it's me, your host, Kristen Carney, along with Marnie Kinrys. And we have a very special guest who's got the special title of doctor, which me and Marnie covet. No, Marnie's naturally a doctor. Dr. Laura Berman from Undercover Radio. And thank you so much for joining us, Laura. Or Dr. Laura. Do you, in regular conversation?
Thank you, doctor, for being on the show.
I never know.
You can call me Dr. Berman or Laura. Just don't call me Dr. Laura, because a lot of people confuse that with
Dr. Laura.
Yes, there's another Dr. Laura, right?
Who is not at all on the same page with me about almost everything. So,
right.
Oh, interesting.
In case of confusion, you can just call me Laura.
Well, I love that you're on our show right now. I've been very excited to talk to you for a while. We had to cancel our first session together, but I'm so happy that you're talking to us now, because today we are going to talk about chemistry. And this is a big area of expertise for you. And I would love for you, I know we talked a little bit before the show, but I would love for you first to define chemistry, and then we can go into a little bit more detail, because I don't think that from the male perspective, a lot of men understand what chemistry is, right, how it feels, and how it presents itself for women.
Well, I think it's interesting, because I almost feel like men understand the physical aspect of chemistry better than women do.
Really?
Because, chemistry can be defined from a physiologic standpoint of like DNA and pheromones, on a continuum to, how well you kind of vibe with each other and your shared vision of the world and of the future and how in alignment you are. So chemistry is actually, in essence, especially when we're talking about love relationships, a biopsychosocial kind of, sometimes even spiritual kind of connection. I think for most guys, when they hear chemistry, they think, oh, that person is hot. I would want to have sex with them.
Right.
I find them super sexually attractive. And then that's like initial attraction kind of chemistry to them. And then they might also define chemistry as, once they kind of get with that person. So first they're sort of talking, they're talking. And then when they finally get together physically, if it gelled really well and felt really good and they're both really into it, then they'll talk about the chemistry between the two of them from the physical standpoint, which is definitely a huge part of chemistry.
Yeah.
But it's not really how women will typically define it. For women, the attraction actually and the physical attraction builds the more she likes the personality, especially if we're talking about men and women.
Yeah.
So for a woman, while she may not feel that chemical pull, quote unquote, with that guy who she first meets, once she gets to know him, especially if he's funny.
Is it especially if he's funny? So that is like a thing?
Especially if he's funny.
Okay.
Men who women find funny are significantly more attractive than men who aren't funny. And I think part of that is not only because laughter is one of the greatest predictors of relationship satisfaction, being able to laugh together and at yourselves and with each other, but also it's, it's a symptom of intelligence.
It is.
Yeah.
That's
really funny.
Yeah.
And
and that's why,
now Kristen's in love with you. She's like, oh,
well,
okay.
that's why
Now we can talk to each other.
I'm so funny because I have a really, really high IQ.
Yeah.
But I actually have no idea what a really high IQ even is. So, I don't have a good IQ because I don't even know what a good score is.
You're so smart, you don't even need to know.
Right, exactly. But I'm so glad that you address this, because we get messages a lot from guys saying, this show is all about just being a hot dude and getting women that way. And Marnie and I always say it's so much different for women. It does not always come down to looks. It's so much personality. It plays such a huge part of it. So because you have the title doctor, you are now dropping the mic.
Now you've proven us right.
Right.
Well, so let me ask you a question. So a guy and a girl go on a first date, they connect, they share similar backgrounds, they're having great conversation, they're laughing every once in a while, and then they separate and the guy walks away saying, oh my God, that was great. I feel really strong chemistry with her. Maybe he doesn't even use those words to define it. He just says, I like her. I want to see her again.
She was hot.
I want a boner. Let's go out for a second time. And then the woman walks away and says, oh, that was a really nice guy, but I'm not feeling what I wanted to feel with them. Can you explain that a bit more? Because
it's so common now for a lot of reasons. And I think one of the main reasons is because we're really confused about what we want. We want, what I call a snag, a sensitive new age guy, right? We want him to be modern and flexible gender roles and be just as willing to cook and clean and change diapers and share, really flexible in all of that realm. But we also want him to protect us, from a mugger or a robber or somebody breaking in. And we also say this is the biggest complaint I get from men. Women say they want a nice guy, a good guy, but they really don't. They keep dropping me and the other good guys I know for the bad boy.
Right.
And I see that happen all the time. And I think what I try to help guys understand is that women really do want a nice guy. They want a nice guy who has opinions and who knows who he is and can be flexible and wants to put your opinions ahead of his at times, but also can hold his own. So when you ask him, when it comes up, where do you want to go for dinner? He doesn't say, whatever you want, whatever you want. He has an idea, and he may even have a strong idea and be stubborn at times, but he's also sensitive to you and flexible in his thinking. And that's a big difference than just a yes man. And I think it's really confusing for a lot of guys, especially the guys that are, under 40, who have been raised by women who have been whispering in their ears, whatever you do, don't do to any woman what was done to mom and our generation of women. And they don't know how to be, manly men and sweet at the same time. And women don't know how to be powerful and in their feminine at the same time. And I think it creates a lot of issues in the dating world and in life in general. But what women will often do is say, he's got everything I want on paper, but I'm not that attracted to him. And often the reason she's not attracted to a really nice guy is not because she doesn't find him attractive. It's because he's so into her that she thinks something must be wrong with him because she doesn't deserve that,
Right.
So I always tell guys, if she's saying she wants the good guy, but then she's dumping you for the bad guy, she really doesn't have enough self-worth for a good guy.
I completely agree with you.
I do agree too, but then I wonder what the quote unquote bad guy actually is, if he really is a bad guy, or if he's just, like you said, a guy with opinions and confidence. And so the good guys aren't really losing these women to actual bad boys, but strong men instead.
Well, yes, I think that happens, but I think it's more often that they're losing them to the guys who, she keeps going back to her boyfriend who cheated on her.
Oh, right.
Or who, won't leave his wife, or who is a player. And, it's because it's like that, it's every wounded woman's, thing. I had a little bit too in my earlier life. I think many of us go through that phase where we want the fixer upper. If the guy who's such a player finally sees the error of his ways for me, I can finally believe I'm lovable,
Yeah. What is the psychology behind that? Because there's a guy that I had been talking to a little bit who isn't really available. I've heard he's very, he's a scumbag, kind of, he doesn't treat women that well. And yet I'm going online, checking his Instagram stories every 5 minutes, but I know he's a creep. Why am I doing that? What is that about my brain?
Well, you can answer that question by asking yourself, how would you feel if he was not going out with anyone else and just coming after you and calling you, and like was all of a sudden changing his player ways because he had finally met the love of his life, you.
Yeah, I'd probably be grossed out. I would go, oh, get out of here, loser.
Right. But that's really what you want.
Right. But it's like,
that's what you're hoping will happen, is that he'll reform for you. What therapists call it is, I mean, that's what it's like, a trauma bond.
Mm-hmm.
It's what therapists call repetition compulsion. We keep getting into the same relationship dynamic that sort of replicates our earlier life rejections in hopes that this time it'll turn out differently. And it never
Why
does.
does our brain work against us like that?
Yeah.
It's not working against us. It's trying to fix itself and it's trying to heal itself.
Yeah.
So that you're trying to get into situations that replicate something that happened to you in your past and looking for a different outcome, which typically doesn't work because you don't have the tools for it or you haven't grown in a certain way. So you end up in the same position. I have a question, because this is something I've been very curious about lately. And I don't know if there's an answer for it, but do you think that this is a generational thing? Like, do you think that women now who are between 18 and 25, let's say, who have been getting so many messages of girl power and women are amazing, like, do you think that they date the same way and have? No. Okay. That's interesting, because I want to hear about that.
I don't. I think it's a very confusing, it's a very exciting time, and it's a very free time. You know, there's so many options, but it can be a really confusing time. And I think it falls into the same category as what women, you know, we don't have women really until recently. And even now they're few and far between, haven't had a really good model of power and feminine power in relationship and feminine power in our sexual lives. And so what did we do? Like, just to give you a perfect example, in the 80s, right, when women started working on Wall Street and in finance and in all these jobs that, you know, had always been in the domain of men, what did they do? They dressed like men. They acted like men. The only women, you know, that they felt that could sort of keep up with the men, that were the ones that could curse and spit and, you know, party like the guys, right? And now it's sort of moved into, well, look, guys can have however many sexual partners they want and have casual sex. I should be able to too. And she absolutely should and is. But our power sexually and even romantically is found in a very different place. And I think that women fall into this, you know, I call it the alpha woman syndrome. We kind of high five each other when we're dating some guy that is whipped and wrapped around our finger and lets us control everything, where we're going on vacation, what he wears, you know, everything else. And we think we're all empowered, but then we get grossed out with the monster we've created, you know?
Yeah.
Because we want him to have those cojones and to have opinions, but we are going to push against that because we think that's where our power is. And then that's when it gets confusing, is because both of us are trying to be in our masculine power, which, you know, feminine power is very different. It's just as powerful. In fact, sometimes more so, but it's not so controlling and forceful. It's more creative and flowing and highlighting possibilities and pointing in directions and creating things. And the masculine energy is much more kind of moving forward and containing those things. And when both of you are trying to contain everything and control everying, it gets kind of messy.
It gets completely sticky. That's interesting. Yeah. Okay. So, I don't even know where to go with this now, because I have so many questions. No, but this is actually really interesting, especially what you were saying before with people with people who are of the younger generation, where they are starting to date differently because they do have better examples in front of them, and they're still going to have traumas from their past. It just might be shifting.
Yeah, and marriages, families that didn't work out, marriages that tentative about really committing, tentative about, labeling their orientation or even monogamy, which I think opens up the playing field and creates possibilities. But where I think women get into trouble is from a sexual standpoint, the difference between us and men in a very basic physiologic way. Well, there are lots of differences, but a big one is that, for all of us, when you have really good sex, your brain gets washed in oxytocin, which is the chemical of attachment. It's what breastfeeding mothers release to bond with their baby, and for men, they have enough testosterone to kind of counteract those bonding effects, which makes it a lot easier for them to have one night stands and go on with their lives. And women, we intend to have a one night stand. We don't even like the guy. We just think he's hot, right? And then you have amazing sex with him. And all of a sudden you're being washed in cuddle hormones and feel bad the next day when he doesn't ask for your number when you never intended to give it to him.
Right. Even if it's not great sex, I will tell you, like, I think I've talked about it on our show before. I had this one guy in college, Gilbo, who we decided to just like have sex with each other as friends. It was not good sex at all, but there was something in my brain that was saying I had to be with him and it had to be turned into a relationship. Even though when he was showing he was very into me in the beginning, I was like, no, get away. This is just casual. But there was something in me that said we need to be more consistent with each other and hang out and turn it into more of a relationship. And I finally went up to him in the library and I said, can we just go back to being friends? This is getting way too confusing for me. But it's interesting that you're saying that. So let's take a step back for 1 second, because I want to talk about chemistry again. But before we started the show, you had said that there was a way to instruct men on how to build that chemistry. And you've touched on it throughout our conversation so far. But can we give some first date suggestions and recommendations and little tips and tools that guys can use to guarantee the best chance for chemistry to be felt by the woman on the other end, if he chooses or wants her to feel chemistry?
Well, I mean, I think the best way to create chemistry with a woman in particular is to go after her main sexual organ, which is between her ears. Mm-hmm. And, I like to encourage guys, our tendency, men.
Don't use your penis up there though yet.
No, not yet.
Just like slapping her forehead. That would not work.
The Dr. Berman said this would go well on the first.
Right. A doctor said it. It has to work.
But, a tendency is to sort of Google the poop out of someone and find out everything about them before you go out. I really like the idea of not doing that. Get really curious and think about maybe one or two things about that person, but really make the intention about being really, really curious about her and not proving yourself, not establishing yourself, not even playing any games. But if you go in there confident in your own skin and curious about her and not trying to play her or manipulate the situation or, be a player or anything else, you're not playing hard to get. You are sort of hard to get, but you're just really curious about her as a human being to the extent that, you are funny or can cultivate some funny in preparation. That is always good. And to be chivalrous, to open the door. I mean, it is not something, even though women want to be empowered and we can open our own doors and pull out our own chairs. If you really want to stand out, if you treat her in a gentlemanly way, even if she can open her own door and pull out her own chair, it really makes a good impression. And that allows her to feel respected and protected. And that's the kind of chemistry we really want to feel. We want to feel protected. And like if, like I said, if someone comes and holds up the restaurant, you're going to help, but we don't want to be controlled.
Okay. Well, can you paint a larger picture of the being curious portion? Because from what I heard from that description, it all sounded wonderful. Being confident in your own skin, laughing a little bit. For the guys that I work with, I hear them going in and just asking question after question after question after question.
Yeah.
Can we expand on that a bit?
No, it's not a job interview. It's more like you got to think about it like, almost like a work colleague or an acquaintance that you're impressed by and intrigued with for some reason, but you're just wanting to learn more about them. So you're not trying to ask them a million questions for a checklist, but you're really curious about who they are and and how they feel about things and, what their biggest dream is and, how.
So it's definitely digging deeper and not just asking surface level questions.
Not like, so where do you work and what's your situation? What's your favorite ice cream flavor? And what do you want, like,
why do you like lemon meringue?
Or even asking, like, what did you dream about being when you were, when you grew up as a little girl? And, just women, because I work a lot with parents and children and teaching them, how to raise sexually healthy kids. And parents will especially ask me about girls and how to like make sure they choose the right guys. And I'm always like, worry about the guys too. But it is true that if you're, a really good father of a daughter, and for some reason it seems to be more impactful if the father does this from the standpoint of male-female relationships, if he can really identify what I call her treasures and her treasure chest. So when she's little, if she had a loving male figure in her life that made her, pointed out the beautiful color that her eyes changed when the sun shined into it, and how funny she is and how thoughtful she is.
He would make such a good boyfriend.
Yeah, right? Like if you notice things that are unique about her and are curious about things that are unique about her, then when a guy comes along and notices those same treasures, she's his, right? So to the guys, the way that you really build chemistry is noticing things that are uniquely special about her. Not just that she's pretty, but that there's something really unique about her when she laughs, the way that, she grins is so endearing or whatever, but things that are uniquely special and delightful about her. If you point those out and she's healthy enough to, emotionally to be in a healthy relationship, she'll be into that.
What if she's not healthy enough?
Will
she still appreciate that? but before we were just saying everybody has all these traumas, they're all messed up. So
we all have differing degrees.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes we get stuck. So one of the ways that I see guys get the most stuck is in the scenario that I call crazy gives good sex. And what happens there is, women who are like not emotionally stable and are going to be like,
crazy in bed.
Right. Because they're so uninhibited.
Right.
Are in general are going to be amazing, amazing, amazing. And then men often very quickly fall in love with that. Right. And then, they call my show up months later, and are like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. I love her, but she gambled away all of our finances, or she's going off the rails, or, a lot of times guys fall in love really quickly because of this intense sexual connection. When the woman is just not emotionally healthy to have a healthy relationship with. And those are the women who will cheat, who will keep going back to the bad boyfriend who cheated on her, who, will keep using drugs or gambling or doing whatever it was that she was doing that was destructive, that you thought exciting in the beginning. Right. So I think that's a way that a lot of guys get caught.
For sure. We're going to take a quick break for a second. I love everything that you're saying. We'll be back in a couple of minutes with Dr. Laura Berman. So stay tuned.
I swear I don't want to be a man. However, I do want to be a man when it comes to certain things like clothing. I love men's clothes. And another thing I'm starting to get jealous of is men's skincare, specifically Tiege Hanley, because it's uncomplicated. Women have so many options, and it's just we're oversaturated with this routine and this and that works and this. But for dudes, you guys haven't really been bothered so much, but you should have been, because your skin is important. And Tiege Hanley is an uncomplicated, amazing brand for guys who want to start getting their skin in better condition. I know Marnie's husband's been using it, and she said she's seen a huge improvement in his blackheads. Guys, you guys have to take a look at your skin, because chances are it needs help. Just because no one's addressed it before doesn't mean you shouldn't address it now. And this is such an uncomplicated way to go about it. I know for me, if I don't know where to start with something, I just don't start at all. Well, with Tiege Hanley, you know where to start, because I can recommend where. You start with a level 1 skincare system. It gives you all the basics of face wash, an exfoliating scrub, and AM and PM moisturizers. Okay, AM and PM. All of this for only $25. But actually, it's going to be even cheaper than $25, because if you go to Tiege.com/askwomen, you'll be presented with a coupon to get a discount on your first box of Tiege Hanley. So all of that for less than $25. Let me put into perspective how cheap $25 is for all of that. I just spent $60 on a night cream. Okay, end of story. So to get started on making your skin look awesome, go to Tiege.com/askwomen. That's TIEGE.com/askwomen.
All right, we are back. I didn't want to interrupt you because I wanted you to keep going, but I absolutely love it because I think that does happen to a lot of people. A lot of guys that I work with will write into me and say, I know that this girl is the one. I think I'm in love with her. And then I'll find out at the end of their email to me or 2 minutes into the phone conversation that they've never spoken to this woman before.
Yeah.
And so what is a way that men can check in with themselves to slow themselves down so that they don't get overpowered? Because I think that this is also very attractive too, when men don't get overpowered by this chemistry that they feel.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think in general, you have to really work against your instincts when you want to, nail it down, right? Because it's so amazing. And I think you just want to make your major commitments slowly. You want to see, what is she like in the light of day? What is she like 3 months into the relationship? What is she like in a stressful situation? What is she like in a crisis? How does she handle you being, with her less often? Because in the beginning of a relationship, we can't get enough of each other. We're both putting our best foot forward. And that's how a lot of us get into trouble is we make commitments too quickly before we figure those things out because it feels so good so fast and we've never felt this way. And, guys typically they are much more likely than women to fall in love at first sight. I think women really fall in love at first insight, which is back to that chemistry thing. Guys fall in love because first physically and then emotionally. And women typically, we got to find you nice physically, but mostly we fall in love first emotionally. And then really the physical kind of adds to that. So it's sort of in reverse to what your average guy, how he works in love.
Interesting. So overall, what I'm hearing from you is that even to calm yourself down so that you're not diving in head first, you're slowing it down to fight your instincts. But even when on a date, doing the same thing for yourself. So being curious it's a way to, create chemistry, to get a girl to open up and to find out more about her. But it's also a way for you to appear more selective, which is the same thing as you're saying for slowing down. It's okay, hold on a second. Let's ignore my penis, maybe even ignore this overwhelming feeling in my brain that's saying I want to be with you, and just let's investigate a little bit more, which is fun.
Let's enjoy the unfolding. Let's let things, nothing's going to intrigue her more than if you're like, I want to take things slowly.
I don't want to kiss you just yet. Stop making those eyes at me. Right. Exactly. That's where the tension builds up. And that's where that feeling of chemistry happens. So
in fact, I do that a lot in my couples who've been together a long time. And a lot of those relationships when sex has gotten really kind of stale or they haven't had it in a long time. And I'll say okay, no more sex. All you can do tonight is kiss. And, invariably they cheat on their homework. And even if they haven't been interested in each other in months, when they can't have it, the tension's even greater. So.
Oh, I love that. What would be something that in a first interaction or even a first date that would be a little bit lower level than you're not allowed to kiss each other? What would be something cute that a guy could do to sort of trigger that same instinct in a woman to say no, don't get me. You're not mine yet.
Right. Well, I think you can say if you make her feel like she's a delicious present that you want to take your time really getting to know and unwrapping, not that you're going to use that metaphor, but if you're saying things and treating her in ways even if you kiss her and you're like, wow, I really could kiss you all night, but I just want to really savor this and take this slow. And I would love to see you again in a few days and, see where this goes. So if you are kind of putting on the gentle taps on the brake, that's even better than because she's so used to fending people off,
I love that. Okay. That is really, really good. I want to take a minute and answer a question from one of our listeners, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
Okay. Dear Marnie and Kristen, before I start off, I want to first tell you that I've been watching Marnie on YouTube for a long time, listening to the podcast, and I am a ridiculously huge fan. My question was whether or not women dislike it when you appear with other women. This question stems from an experience or experiences that I've had over the past few months. Like this one time, I brought some of my good female friends, wing girls, to a party I was going to. However, when I arrived, I didn't exactly get the sort of results I expected. A lot of the women I approached were very standoffish and unopen to my approaches. I wondered frantically about whether I had forgotten to brush my teeth that morning or wear deodorant. But then it hit me like a freight train. One girl that I had approached scolded me for flirting with other girls when I was obviously with another woman. I was a bit confused. This was totally against previous advice that I had received about women finding men with female wing girls more attractive. So thus, what brings me to ask my favorite wing girl of all time for some advice on this topic. Do women find men with other women more attractive, or should I ditch my girlfriends the next time I hit the town? Keep up the amazing work. Yours truly, Allie. Yeah, so Dr. Berman, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
I would not. It's interesting. There was just a study that came out that men find women more attractive when they're with an attractive man.
Really?
But yes, which you would think is not the case. But it was an interesting study. But what I would say, women, what will make you much more attractive to other women in general, and this is counterintuitive to most men, is to see you really treating your date well.
Yeah.
Like, I used to joke with my husband about this because when he would do something really romantic or sweet, I'd be like, all the other women in the room, I want what she's having is kind of what they think. And that's why you'll see more often than not, the guys that women go after are not the ones that are cheating on their wives all the time, but the ones that are devoted to their wives.
Yeah.
Because they want some of that too.
Well, every wedding I've been to, the groom is not attractive to me until the day of the wedding. And then I see the way he looks at her and I'm like, oh my God, I hope he cheats on his wife with me right now.
Exactly. I want that. I want him to treat me that way. Right.
Yeah.
And so we tend to be really interested in the other women, both as competition and inspiration. Like if you ever walk down the street in a city, you'll notice that women, we're checking each other out much more than we're checking out guys.
For sure.
If you're talking about a wing woman situation, I think it's true. It'd be one thing if the other women saw you being all attentive to the woman, then they'd probably be coming on to you as you went to the bathroom. But when they see you going and they think you're with a woman and you're going around the room flirting with everyone else, then you're going to become less attractive.
Right. And
I think women can be intimidated by other women.
Yeah.
Because they're not sure, is she judging me? Is she making fun of me behind my back to this guy? Is she annoyed because she likes the guy and he's coming on to me? I don't know how to handle this, so I'm going to avoid it. So that's a long way of saying I would not try to go pick up women with a wing girl.
Interesting. Unless what I hear you saying is unless you're not outwardly going to approach women and you're having them come to you. Right? Because that sounds like you're a dirtball. If you're like, hey, I'm here with a girl, but I'm going to go work the room, then you look like a dick. Right. But if you're just sitting and having fun with your girlfriends and your wing girls and they're making you look good and bring other women into your circle, then you can be seen as very attractive. That's interesting. Because that makes sense.
Very different. Or if she goes up to him and she's like, one of my best friends is here and he has not stopped talking about how pretty you are all night and he's too shy to come up to you. Would you come over and can I introduce you to him or something like that? Like from that standpoint, that could be cute.
Right. Because then she knows what's happening.
Yeah.
And then, so Kristen, for you, have you ever met a guy that way?
No, I was just going to say, I would perhaps maybe think if he's just hanging with all these girls that he's gay.
Oh,
I mean, maybe not, maybe he overly, clearly is not, but that would be my first instinct would be, why is this guy hanging out with all of these girls? And does that mean maybe he's into women or he's effeminate or, is he using women like, guys use a dog or something to get a
I
girl to
probably
say
think the
hi.
same
You know
thing
what I
too,
mean?
but at least that creates curiosity. If I saw some guy walk in the door with 3 really hot girls, that would catch my attention right away. 100%.
Yeah.
And I don't know 100% what I would think about him, because I would have to see how he carries himself, how those girls react to him. But maybe it would cross my mind to think, is he gay? Maybe. Again, it depends on how he's carrying himself.
I mean, it would depend on how he was interacting. I would just think he was with one of the girls.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I would think he is one of the girls.
Right.
But
That's okay.
but I'm also incredibly cynical. So people might not see it that
Have
way.
you ever had
for the
somebody
majority.
come up to you and say, okay, my friend over there thinks you're so cute, he wanted to talk to you? And if so, is that attractive for you to hear, that he can't come to you himself?
Yeah, I do think it's attractive. But of course, the answer always ends up being, but it depends on who the guy is. If I look over and it's this guy who's like got drool hanging out of his mouth, I'll go, yeah, that's not really that cute. But if it's the guy that I had my eye on, I'd be like, oh, that's adorable. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey.
And you'd be into it. So it wouldn't be a turnoff for you if he had to get somebody else to do it for you. Okay.
No.
Okay.
And J-Lo, actually, I heard her interviewed not long ago about her courtship with A-Rod. And she was saying that she thought it was so cute because he was really shy. And then like she went off to the bathroom or something during their first date. And he texted her, I think you're really pretty.
Oh, that's so cute. That's really, really cute.
That was adorable.
That is adorable. All right. So Allie, you've heard our responses. Basically, you screwed up because you walked in with a whole bunch of girls. You ignored the girls, worked the room, and then looked like the douchebag. So a wing girl, wing woman can definitely work to your advantage. You just have to work them the right way. Okay, one more question. I just started listening and watching your podcast and YouTube channel, and the insights you have into what women really want in a potential mate has helped me work up the guts to approach women. And I really appreciate all that you do. A little about myself in a nutshell. I'm a comic book reading, cartoon loving, game player, sci-fi fantasy, anime watching, horror movie, weed smoking, history learning, amateur novelist, liberal with a whimsical, if not quirky sense of humor. Some of my friends say I'm basically an overgrown kid, but in a good way, with an old soul. I'm having a hard time trying to present these aspects of myself with women, into something women would find interesting, if not attractive. Do you have any advice, Jamal? I mean, that was adorable. That was a good way to do it.
Is really adorable for a very specific kind of girl. Yeah, but there are a lot of those. I mean, I get a ton of those on my radio show of relationships that started in the
parents' basement,
in the gaming space. Yeah, in each of their basements. And, there's a growing population of people, and especially in the cosplay world, there's even, I don't know if you ever go to like Comic-Con or anything like that. I've done it a lot through the years, especially with my kids. And my favorite thing to do, they're always like, Mom, come on. But I love
I want to go.
Is to go and watch.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready? Comic-Con speed dating. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my Lord.
All right. So
that's the best people watching ever.
Yeah. And they're all in their cosplay and, meeting each other. And what a perfect way to find like-minded people who are going to be into what you're into. I mean, that's always the best way to meet potential partners is to go get involved in something that you're really into and meet other people. Even if they're not people you want to date, they're going to be brothers, cousins, sisters, whatever, of people that you do want to date.
Exactly. I just, I write scripts for my YouTube videos before I record them. So I just recorded a video about social circles. And that was one of my tips, like join a community. So don't just join groups or join classes of things that you enjoy. Go find a community that exists where it's like-minded people. And if there isn't a community that exists, create that community for yourself. And the wonderful thing now is that everything's at our fingertips. And there's so many like subcultures and communities that are out there.
And also it's the horrible thing at the same time.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But and I think more so an absolutely wonderful thing, because you can find all these people, like, whereas 20 years ago, you may have felt like the strangest person in the entire world because nobody around you had the similar interests. Now you can find so many people.
You can find many people who want to dress up like Snow White to your dwarf.
Yeah, exactly. And I totally agree with that. We're going to wrap up our show with Dr. Laura Berman, who has been fantastic and wonderful. And thank you so much for doing this. Can you tell people how they can listen to you, work with you, find you, do anything with you?
Yeah. Well, you can follow me on social media at Dr. Laura Berman. I'm putting all sorts of tips about how to love and be loved better. And you can go to my website, drlauraberman.com, where you can get links to videos and courses and upcoming speaking stuff, and also links to listen to my radio show, which is syndicated around the country, but you can listen to it online too. It's called Uncovered Radio with Dr. Laura Berman.
Amazing. And Kristen, anything you want to tell people about?
Hi. Well, this was not discussed previously, but Dr. Berman really did a good testimonial for my banter guide, which you can get from Marnie, because Dr. Berman said, funny is the number one thing that connects people. So
I was like, how did she get a copy of that? Okay. Yeah.
No. So if you guys, so if you want a banter guide or learn to be funny, go to Marnie's website, wingirl.com/banterk. But then if you want actual lessons, they can come over to me at kristenandchill.com, and I'll make you funny and witty and charismatic and all that shit.
All that shit in 10 minutes or less. That's how you're going to do it. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at winggirlmethod.com. And then if you want to send in questions so that we answer with our guests and overanalyze them, I keep moving away from my mic. It's a new mic and I'm realizing that I can't do the same things I used to do. Write them into ask@askwomenpodcast.com. New episodes of our podcast come out every week on Thursdays, 5 p.m. Pacific. Sometimes I post them earlier. They're also available on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com/Marnie Kinrys, and you can watch or listen there, however you choose to do it. You guys are amazing. We will see you next week.